Well, hello everyone, Jason D'Souza coming to you from Sydney. And last night was a pretty big night. It was the launch of the 2024 AFL season. And interestingly, this year it was launched in Sydney, which for those of us who live in Australia recognise it's unusual because AFL is usually a sport dominated by Victoria and Melburnians. Victoria has the most teams, but over the last few years, there's been a real effort by the Australian Rules Football League to grow the game beyond Melbourne into other places. And in New South Wales, we have two teams, the GWS Giants, which originated in New South Wales and was chaired originally by Tony Shepherd, one of our senior advisors here at IDEA Partners. And of course, the Sydney Swans, which came originally from Melbourne as a Melbourne team and moved across into Sydney to grow the game here. And every state has a couple of teams now demonstrating the growth of the AFL over the last 20 years into a national sport. And it sort of got me thinking a little bit about why the AFL is important and why Australian rules football is important to Australia as a nation. Well, firstly, it is the fourth largest league in the world, which for Australia is pretty remarkable to think about it. We're a relatively small nation in comparison, but we are sport mad and we particularly love AFL. Some 7 million people attend AFL football games in a season. And now the game is played by almost 1.7 million people, which shows how important it is. But more than that, it's a game now that I recognize is steeped in the tradition of Australia. It's intergenerational. Families follow teams, their children follow teams, their children's children follow teams, and they become fanatics. They unite over wins and they commiserate over losses and they cheer their teams on as if they are part of a broader family. And I just think that is so important for a nation, so important for cities, and so important for communities to be able to unite around something where everyone can share a common goal. And I think generally that's why I think sport is such a unifying thing for communities globally. I happen to be a soccer fan, and and think about when the World Cup is on, how the whole world tends to unite around football, and each country manages to cheer its team, and regardless of success or failure, there's great pride in the fact that their flag is flying in a stadium and their team is playing another nation's team. The same could be said for lots of other sports. But I think what really struck me about the AFL last night and the AFL launch was the sense of family and fans. The coach of the Collingwood football team spoke in a video about last season where Collingwood won the flag and won the league, about the fact that he had 44 sons and that he really believed the team was about family and about its fans, which something about that really resonated with me. The day of last year's AFL Grand Final, he and his wife gave birth to a baby girl. And the people he shared that with was his players. And he talked about that in terms of family, which drove them to then sort of deliver for their coach. And I also just felt that this whole sense of the fans and the importance of the fans really sort of came through in the way every team spoke at the launch and sort of in the event afterwards that I was lucky enough to be at. So I just wanted to make 4 observations really about why I think AFL is important for Australia. As I mentioned, it's already the 4th largest league in the world. What makes it the 4th largest league is it has a dramatic and loyal fan base. People who are proud to pull on their team's jersey, proud to pull on a jersey for their children, proud to pull on a jersey even if it's in an associated sport under a brand like the GWS Giants netball team. It's played at grassroots and it's growing at grassroots. And you can see from so many of the parents that I speak to, the great pride in taking their kids to Auskick and being on the sidelines as they cheer on their kids in the game. And I think mostly the one that really stands out, it's clear to me that it's intergenerational, that parents are passing on the love of their Australian rules football team to their children. much like parents in other countries pass on the love of their football team to their children, or their cricket team to their children. But in AFL, in this country at least, it seems to me that there's a really strong bond between parent and child in the way that they approach their AFL team. I walked away last night really sort of feeling that the AFL is positioning itself as Australia's game, very much like the NFL positions itself as America's game. So I realized this content is a little bit different to what I would normally do, but it was a really great night last night, and my friend Jude Donnelly, who is a stalwart of the AFL and perhaps one of its greatest brand ambassadors, invited me along and has been telling me this for years. And despite the number of AFL games I have been to and played in, I think last night was the first night I sort of realised, hey, this thing is really special, and it's a really special asset for Australia, and it's a really special asset for our Australian community. So there's some thoughts. Many of you are asking me when the next Smarter Cities podcast is. It is coming. We will be back soon. We're going to have lots of great guests on. But for the moment, I hope you are all well, and I'll see you on the next one.